of the King's Cross fire, a major refurbishment and improvement plan was implemented. The 3 prototype engines were a great safety improvement on the previous designs, with the Victoria stock being the first to benefit. Old fiberglass surrounds and melamine were replaced with the new material that was safer at higher temperatures, and their replacements offered an opportunity to modernise the rest of the interior. The new interiors featured warm colour palettes featuring ivory finishes and blue grab poles. The armrests were moulded to the seats, making them more resistant to damage. Vandalism and graffiti had become a major problem. While some graffiti is considered art and is stunning, the graffiti seen on the trains was unsightly and unclean. The spray paint used corroded the engine's paint and stained the outer shell. Once an engine was defaced, it was practically impossible to clean. The trains were repainted with a new type of paint, which made it very difficult for the spray paint to stick to it. The trains could be washed easily with no staining whatsoever and would come out of the wash looking as good as new, while the taggers would watch their paint go down the drain with nothing to show for their work. The passengers loved the new designs and saw it as modern and futuristic. It created a sense of value and pride on the network, something that the passengers welcomed. Considering the welcome reception the Victoria line had, the Bakerloo line was treated to the same treatment. The Circle line trains also saw the largest changes. The 1969 to the 1977 stock were completely revamped inside. More features were given to help with the problem of antisocial behaviour and vandalism. Now the trains boasted anti-vandalism fabric seating, which were resistant to ripping, and clear perspex draft screens, which allowed the staff to see the entirety of the carriage. In 1992, British Rail Engineering Limited received a new contract to build 85 new trains based on the notes and the successes of the 3 prototype engines of the 80s. New bogies that were more slimline gave up more room up to the carriage body above and allowed for more standing room. New seating arrangements gave the passengers more room, and a new safety feature was added that allowed the armrest to break away in the event of a crash. Unfortunately, this design safety feature became the 1992 stock's biggest flaw, as vandals found they could just kick the armrest off, much to the annoyance of the staff and engineers. In a nod to the 1947 stock, the new train windows featured the up and over design, with the new windows reaching into the roof. British Rail Engineering was so proud of the design that a full-size mock-up was created and put on display at the Transport Museum in Covent Garden. The new trains also featured improvements to the cab. More thought was given to the driver's posture and comfort, and posture-correcting seating was installed. The controls received much attention as well and were put in positions with the driver in mind. The new trains were some of the smartest trains on the network and carried a ton of new technology. They carried automatic train operation and automatic train protection systems. The trains could now move automatically without driver input, and the protection detects electronic codes in the tracks and can feed vital information to the driver of speed restrictions and limits. For the Jubilee line, it would see the largest engineering project of its time. The original line between Charing Cross and Baker Street was never meant to be a done project. Plans were on the table to increase the length of the line even before construction was complete. However, the railways always had other projects or setbacks, meaning that the plans were pushed further and further back until they were mostly forgotten about. The 1980s saw a huge business boom, especially with trading, money, stocks and shares. Small local businesses soon exploded into massive domineering companies, each vying for their much needed office space in the heart of the city. The new financial district, Canary Wharf, saw massive redevelopment in this time, and the new district needed a new railway to service it, so plans were dusted off and looked at again. It was decided after much study to extend the line via Westminster to Stratford, stopping at Canary Wharf on the way. The dockland developments responsible for the redevelopment, Olympia and York, gave almost £400 million to the £2.1 billion project. The line was further rounded to North Greenwich. British Gas, who donated £25 million to the project themselves, just so that their land above, which was going to be used for housing, would have the excellent transport links. Construction commenced in December 1993 with a plan to have the line finished in 53 months. A new type of tunnelling method called the Austrian method was employed. The boring machine would inject a layer of concrete to the walls of the tunnel as it dug, then a mesh of steel wires and poles were put into the wet concrete to strengthen it. All went well until October 1994, when the tunnel for the Heathrow Express link collapsed in spectacular fashion. The collapse left a huge crater dead centre in between the two runways of one of the busiest airports in the world and caused structural damage to the surrounding buildings. Because the expressway had used the same method of tunnelling for the Jubilee line, work was halted while an investigation was carried out by the Health and Safety Executive. In 1999, over budget and over schedule, the line was opened in phases, with the very last station opened just in time for the new millennium. The stations on the Jubilee line were, as one critic would put it, awe-inspiring. After the departure of Sir Keith Bright in the wake of the King's Cross investigation, Sir Wilfrid Newton took up the reins as chairman. Sir Wilfrid had spent time in Hong Kong and was inspired by the new and modern Hong Kong Metro. He drafted the architect Roland Poletti, who had designed the metro stations, to design the new Jubilee Line terminals, and was given unlimited creative license with, even though they were over budget, an unlimited money supply. What Roland produced is still considered some of the best stations in the world and worth every single penny. Each of the 11 new stations had been designed to make it as spacious as possible, but giving each one features that would still scream modern even today. While each station was an architectural dream, each station was also built with safety in mind. The station's platforms were perfectly level with the floor of the trains, offering step-free access. Dual access at the end of each station allowed for the station to be evacuated quickly should the need arise. New ventilation systems would remove any harmful smoke and toxins in the event of a fire. Each station carried at least 3 escalators, and some stations, whose platforms were typically long and straight, new platform-edged doors were installed. The doors would open seamlessly with the train, and with the new train's technology, they would be able to stop perfectly every single time. By having the track sealed off from the rest of the station, it had multiple benefits. The first benefit would reduce the risk of anyone trespassing on the tracks. Sadly, even today, too many people end up as victims of the tracks. Sometimes it is intentional, whereas for some, they would either fall off the platform accidentally, or they would jump off the platform in an attempt to retrieve possessions they have dropped, completely unaware of the dangers. In many underground stations, you will see wells in between the tracks. These are specially designed to deter anyone wandering onto the tracks, and if someone does end up on them, they would fall in between the wells while await rescue in relative safety. The new doors kept most of the air, dust, soot and grime away from the station, improved airflow, and kept the resident rat and animal population away from the station. Roland invited the best and modern architects of the age to help design the entrances to the stations and the ticket halls. Each architect offered an air of grandeur and industrial influence in their designs. They were also colossal, with massive high-reaching roofs spilling natural light onto the passengers below. No new line would be complete without new stock. In 1999, a new contract was awarded to the GEC to build 59 new 6-car trains. The trains were truly multinational, having their bodies built in Spain, doors from Canada, new bogies built in France. And like a giant jigsaw puzzle, all the parts were shipped to Birmingham, where they were constructed and tested. The trains were the safest yet, incorporating new crash pillars and a set of detrainment steps which were situated in the front of the cab. The new trains could withstand forces up to 100 tons without buckling. And these new trains helped ferry tens of thousands of people and saw in the new millennium in splendour and comfort. With the dawn of the new millennium came new challenges the railway would have to face like never before. The Underground didn't know it yet, but it was about to embark on some of its finest hours in its history, both in the face of triumph and celebration, and in the face of uttermost hell. But that's a story for another time.